Thank you, Sharon, for that insight and that wisdom from the Word of God. God desires for us to prosper in all areas, not only in our health, but also in our bodies and our bank accounts. Bless God, because that's how the kingdom will be established. So, the guest of the hour is Mr. Marcus Fryer. You all are going to love him. He is down to earth. He has the knowledge. He has the wisdom. He can speak our language, and he understands our struggles. So I'm excited, and I want to give him all the time that we can give him, because I'm telling you, I wrote in 1 hour just meeting with him one on one. I had front and back notes, and even when our little meeting this week, our pre-meeting, I had 30 minutes and I had already covered 1 page of notes because that's how the wisdom comes. He talks freely because, this is his gift. God has gifted someone when they can talk freely and it's not even a presentation. He's been doing this for over 30 years. He's from North Carolina. His business is in Durham. We have provided the website and we will send a follow up. And you can see he's ready. He got his game face on. So I am going to step out the way to give Mr. Fryer, Marcus Fryer, Fryer Financials in Durham, North Carolina, his giving him this pulpit because if he was a preacher, I'm telling you, he'll be a preacher of finances because he's good. So let me get out of his way. And Mr. Fryer, thank you so much for sharing your gift with us and the people of Living in Kairos Moment. We can't hear you, Mr. Fryer. Nope, not yet.
Oh, can you hear me now?
You have it. Thank you.
Okay, let me try my computer audio. Can you all hear me okay now? No? Yes?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I was gonna say Sharon could have just kept talking. She was on a pretty good roll there. She set the stage very well for me. Took care of some of the groundwork that we needed to do. So thank you, Sharon. Oh goodness. All right, so yes, we'll get started. Again, today here to talk about cash flow. That really forms the basis of making our financial decisions going forward. Is, as Sharon so eloquently stated, knowing what your income is and your expenses and trying to manage those resources that you have to the best of your ability. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Is like I said, she's already set the stage for that. So if you guys do not already have one, make sure you put a budget in place. Because as she stated, you've got to know your income, you got to know your expenses. Right now, I was reading an article yesterday that because of inflation, the average family is spending $400 more per month, probably on gas and groceries. Um, that's huge. I mean, that's a big number. If you think about if a family is bringing in $4,000 a month, that's a 10% increase in their budget. So, like I explained to a lot of people, like I have with my business owners, where especially some that are in transportation, my lawn people, things of that nature, I explained to them if you're charging this and gas is going like this, we're eventually going to have a problem. So they have to be able to alter their what they're charging to keep their margins and do this. However, we can't walk into our boss and say, "Hey, boss, gas is going up. I need you to, give me a pay raise." It's not going to happen. so, so we have to build in savings, as she stated, and build in ways to manage our budget. All right, so let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right, so I want to start with, can everyone see my screen okay? Our process.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great, wonderful. All right, so basically this is my process. I can send this document to you all as well. Um, Also, before I go, if you all want to email me, or I can talk with Bonnie about how best to do this. We have a personal financial planning website that I can share with everyone. So within that website, you can start to connect your accounts, put in a budget, monitor things. It's what we use with all of our financial planning clients. So I'd be more than happy to share that with each and every one of you guys. You all can start to kind of manage this process a little bit better. But basically, what we do here is that we're goals-based planners, focusing on a person's goal. Our strategy kind of brings clarity to what you're trying to do. And I've basically got a process in place that kind of helps manage these 7 pillars: wealth management, risk management, tax management, estate planning, cash flow, which we're talking about today, philanthropy, and other value-added services. So basically, in a nutshell, what we're trying to achieve is financial independence. That's what everybody wants. That's what matters to people. And then over here, we have the things that we can control, which are our philosophy, our planning strategy, our process. So when we're talking about financial independence, for most people, family is number one. Clients, number one priority. They talk about their parents, they talk about their children, talk about their relatives. Next becomes our occupation. And we want to try and retire on a work optional lifestyle if we can. As I used to tell my students when I was teaching at Central, I told them, when you see someone 75 years old working at Walmart, they're not there because they're just bored. They're probably there because they have to be. And so that was impacted by the decisions that they made earlier in life. So again, the earlier we can get ahead of this thing and continue to teach our generation and the next generation, we'll see improvement. And then finally, we have recreation. What's on your bucket list? What do you want to do? You want to buy a boat? Do you want to travel every year? Whatever that is, that's something we look forward to. So we want to kind of address recreation as well. And so that's why we want financial independence. And of course, how we get financial independence is money and how we manage it. And as I was telling Bonnie the other day, I think she loves my little sayings, but the big thing is not the win, but the way you set your sails. Okay. So we want to be able to prepare for whatever wind blows, we can set our sails to achieve the goals we want to achieve. So that's kind of our process and what we do. All right, now I'll get the presentation going. All right, is everyone able to see that presentation okay? Perfect. All right, so, well, let's start. Money, what is money? Well, it's a piece of paper. That's the size of it. That's about how much it weighs. So it's kind of an interesting how they start this presentation, just talking about the ground roots of money and what it is. But again, back to our purpose here today is first we're starting with that budget. What comes in the household, what goes out of the household. And again, I'll stop real quick and kind of share a story with you. We had, I attend Orange Grove in Durham, and Pastor Dickerson had me speak to the married couples one day. And before we started the seminar, he was in the pulpit and he says, yes, so today Marcus is going to do his presentation for the married couples. And he's going to teach us why it's important to have all of our money in one account as married people. And he says, because when First Lady wants to do something, there's always money in the account. But when I want to do something, there's never seems to be any money in the account. So that was his whole purpose. But it was pretty funny because there's no right or wrong to that answer. It's really personal preference in terms of 2 accounts, 1 account, but it becomes just communication. And the couples have to communicate, because if one person thinks the other person is saving and vice versa, but neither one of them is saving, when that tire blows, when that engine needs to be repaired, we don't have the funds to do it. So again, it's really just about communication. There's no right or wrong to it, but it was just definitely an interesting dynamic in that room with some of the thought processes between some of the couples and how they thought about things. All right, so let's talk about again money matters here. So looking at this screen here, credit score. See what a big difference a credit score can make. This is on a $400,000 mortgage, 30-year mortgage, fixed rate. Of course, we all know the better your credit score, the better rate you're going to get. But let's just look at how much of a difference this makes. Now, remember, this is $388 per month over the life of the mortgage. It costs about a third more just because of credit score. So also, many people don't realize that your credit score impacts your insurance rates too. So the insurance company is pulling credit scores as well, and that impacts what you pay for auto and home insurance. So that's another thing that we need to be cognizant of is this credit score and driving it up as high as we can. All right, so next we're going to talk a little bit about investing and our risk and reward potentials. So of course, the more risk you take, the higher the reward. The lower the risk, the lower the reward. The key is finding the right answer to that. And that's why we have to look at people's goals versus our benchmarks against a S&P 500 or someone else's benchmark. Really, we want to pare back to what are you trying to achieve? So I can have two people with the exact same incomes, exact same debt, but they're trying to achieve two different things. So we have to take two different paths to get there in terms of what they want to achieve. So a lot of times we find that people may not have to take as much risk as they are taking to get to their goal. So again, when we're trying to analyze reaching you all's different retirement goals, estate planning goals, passing on wealth. Now this presentation doesn't talk about it, but insurance protection and debt management and things and strategies, insurance strategies. Those are all things that are used in order to get you to your goals. Now, one thing I didn't say in the beginning, but if you all have any questions as I'm going along, please stop me, and because I want to kind of address those as you guys think of it. So if anything pops up, just stop me. I think Bonnie and them are trying to monitor the chat for me as well. All right. All right, so next we're talking about the savings rate here. And as you can see, the debt kind of increases and our personal savings rate tends to go down because we're consumers in nature. And people are marketing to us every day, buy this, buy that. And again, that's where we kind of have to say, stay focused and have our blinders on as to what we're trying to achieve. During the pandemic, though, actually, household savings increased. A lot of that was because of stimulus, of course. But now what we're seeing is that a lot of that stimulus has run out and people are with inflation right now, people are having to dip into their savings to make it. And so that cushion that they had created is starting to disappear. So that's something we're having to be cognizant of as well, is again, trying to always keep that savings level up as high as possible so you can prepare for things and not have to charge different things. So again, as it talked about here, personal savings rate has tended to trend a little bit lower since the recession ended, since the pandemic ended. All right, so where do we put our money? All right, of course, we've got savings. So general rule of thumb, people want to have 3 to 6 months of savings. Usually, if someone needs to get a new job, it takes about 3 to 6 months to find one. So that's why they recommend 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses and savings. All right, next we're going to talk about, we got certificates of deposit, money markets, treasury bills. I think how I want to attack this. All right, when we start to talk about treasury bills and investing, we really want to look at because of just what we're seeing right now, inflation, right? So generally in a portfolio, we will put what we call TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. So they're securities issued by the government, but they vary with inflation, so you can keep up. So if you're going to buy bills, I would say you look to buy Treasury inflation protected bills. Now, money markets and CDs, I'm not a fan of either one of these, and we're going to talk about that in terms of leveraging money. So basically, a CD says the bank comes to you. I see Shirley is diligently taking notes. I'm going to use her as the example today. So Shirley, the bank comes to you and says, Shirley, we got a deal. We are going to give you a whopping 1.2% return on this $20,000 you're going to put in the bank with us, and you're going to leave it here for a year. And at the end of the year, you would have made 1.2%. Now, what does the bank do with Shirley's $20,000? Does it sit in the bank? No. They put that $20,000 to work. They go invest that $20,000 in probably some safe securities and make 3 or 4%. Okay. What we have to do is turn that around. And we need to learn how to leverage other people's money. So guess what? People who don't look like us have done for years that we didn't know what to do. When those rates were down in the 2 and 3%, they were going to the bank. Bank, give me $20,000. Bank, I'm going to take your $20,000 and invest it and make 6%. So I'm still up 3%. It's just a numbers game at that point. Something we haven't been taught, but that's why we're here today, to learn these different techniques. You can also do that with your investment accounts. Let's say you have an investment account on your own at TD Ameritrade, whatever, Robinhood, all these things are popping up. If you've ever heard of something called a margin account, that's when you can go to your brokerage firm and say, hey, brokerage firm, I've got $5,000. I want you to essentially match my $5,000 and let me borrow $5,000 from you, and I'm going to buy some investments. And you go and buy $10,000 worth of investments. Again, that's leveraging someone else's money to make some money on your own. So these are, again, some concepts that we can drill down on a little bit further on in subsequent sessions, because Bonnie's told me I will be back multiple times, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, so we've already touched on taxes and inflation a little bit. Basically, that's why we're seeing prices go up at the grocery store. So gas is higher. The delivery driver gets the food line. He says, you know what? Last week it cost me $20 to bring all these groceries. This week it cost me $30. So your bill went up $10. They have to pay him. Food line's not going to eat that cost. They're going to charge it to us. So that's kind of the trickle down effect of inflation, how it works, and what you see here. So a $10,000 investment, if you're only getting 1% and inflation is 3%, as you can see, you just lost money. So when we're investing, we want to at least keep up with inflation. So that's why we need like fixed income securities that are going to beat that inflation rate. We're not trying to hit home runs here and make 8, 9, 10, 11%, but with some of that money, you're just trying to keep up with inflation. So that's important when we're investing, that we're not losing money by being in the wrong products. So again, there's a predictable pattern here. Money market fund assets. This goes back to 2008. So this is about when Brother Bush here was in office and had messed everything up, and everything dipped when we had the big real estate crisis. And then Obama gets in office somewhere around in here, and you can see things just took off. Um, but you can see money market funds pretty much, their value is pretty much staying the same. So they don't add a lot of value. They are a safe place to keep money that's liquid and make something. But nothing that we're going to keep up with inflation. Over time, as you can see, the stock market is going to be the best place to be to make money. All right, so in cash, how much do I need? Again, first, you want to replace income, any emergency allowances, and upcoming expenses. Those could be, as you can kind of maybe see a little bit in the background, I've got 2 daughters. So I told my wife, I'm thinking, I don't know what a wedding costs, but we need to put something away for that because it's going to be coming. And then one's in college now, one's about to go to college. So all of that planning that we had to do, emergency fund. Of course, I think I've already touched on this. One of them has a car, needed an oil change yesterday, so dropped her car off. Took the other one's car too. She needed 2 new tires. They took the tires off. She needed brakes. Hadn't planned on the brakes, but had put away money for emergencies. So we just don't. We know something's coming up. We don't know what it is, but we know we're gonna need some emergency money for something. So we always want to plan for that. And then again, just keeping enough cash on hand. In this case right now, because we got this $400 delta with inflation, with gas and groceries, we need the extra cash on hand to be able to deal with that. So that's what we got in our cash bucket. It makes a difference. Do we have 1 or 2 incomes in the house? How much debt do we have? Do we have any special needs, children and dependents, things of that nature? So a lot of us are in that sandwich generation where we're taking care of parents and we're taking care of children. So we need some investment liquidity, some monies in order to do those things. All right. So again, we touched on this a little bit earlier. When we're investing, again, we've got this tier that we go up. The higher we go up, the more risk we're taking, and we need a mix of all of these. But what we're always looking for is the best possible return with the lowest amount of risk. On my side of the fence, we have something that we measure that with, which is called the Sharpe ratio. So I'll just give you the quick answer on that. So if you're looking at any investments, look at your Sharpe ratio. The higher a Sharpe ratio, that means the more return you're getting for the risk that you're taking. So if I've got so when I'm trying to pick 2 investments for someone, if one of them has a Sharpe ratio of 0.5 and one of them has a Sharpe ratio of 0.75, I'm taking the one that says 0.75 because I'm getting a better return for the same amount of risk. So that's the thing, we're always trying to manage our risk, because people are always okay when the market's going up, but like now when we're experiencing a dip, we're trying to manage that downside. So that's the biggest thing we're always trying to manage, is that downside. Again, when we're talking about liquidity and having access to cash, that cash alternatives bucket, you can invest it, but you want it to be in something that you can get out of. So that CD doesn't tend to be good, because if you've got $50,000 sitting in the CD and they tell you got to keep it there for a year, or there's a penalty, not very, very good place to have it. So you'd be better off in a mutual fund where you can get the money. So we want to keep cognizant of those things and keep our money as flexible as we can to create flexibility in your strategy. Okay, so again, what's the right formula for someone? There's no set rule. It's again sitting down and figuring out, cash, fixed interest, bonds, stocks. So generally speaking, let's just assume this one over here on the right, everything's 20%. We'll just say it's 20% in each one of these. That's probably what we look like as we're approaching retirement. We're younger, we can be more aggressive because we have time. As we get nearer to retirement, we start to kind of come over here to the left because we can't afford for the dip. It takes too long to recover. So we're okay with making a little bit of money and not having that dip, because in general, for every, let's say if you lose 10%, you got to get back 20 to get back to even. So it's just easier just not to lose the 10%. Um, there are tons of studies that show the tortoise usually wins the race here, not the rabbit. Um, so just hitting, 5 or 6% return is just as good as a 0 and a 10, a 0 and a 10, a 0 and a 10. That consistency is going to outperform more so than trying to hit those home runs all the time. The other thing that we see is what we call sequence of returns, and it depends on the sequence that you're getting the money to. So for instance, like right now, a person who's in retirement, just think about it, they're taking money off of their account and the account value is going down at the same time. So that's kind of not the best scenario. The best scenario is when that account is going up and they're taking income. So you can have people with that average 5%, but depending upon what that sequence of return is, they're going to have different ending portfolio values on what they're taking out. So when we get to retirement, we've also got to pay attention to that sequence, and that's why we want some very safe stuff that's not dipping too much. All right, so we got a couple of examples here. We've got Ron and Susan. They've got $150,000. We would probably categorize them as a little bit more aggressive because they've got a, let's see, 67% stocks, 33% in cash. So they're in more like a 65, 35 portfolio, what we would call. So Ron and Susan are probably younger where they can afford to do that. Now, Bob and Lydia are probably a little bit closer to retirement. As you can see, they're at 50-50. So they took their money and they put it 50-50. Again, there's no right or wrong to either one of these. It becomes risk tolerance. What can some people tolerate? So when you're dealing with advisors or trying to figure out where you should be, take a risk tolerance questionnaire. There are several out there. There will be some, if you guys sign up in our software, there's a risk tolerance questionnaire in the software where you can ask yourself these questions. They'll give you some scenarios and you can tell how you feel. The biggest thing with investing a lot of times is the emotional part. So right now we spend a lot of time talking people off the ledge who want to sell everything. Now is the time to buy everything because it's kind of on sale. So especially if you're a long-term investor. A shorter-term investor, we would have already moved them out of some things such that they're not experiencing this dip as much. But yeah, so no right or wrong answer is personal preference, is what your risk tolerance score kind of leads us to. So that in a nutshell kind of is our basis for cash flow. Again, back to Sharon, who started us out: income, expenses, living within our means. I don't want to get too far ahead because I know I'm supposed to speak again, and our next topic is going to be managing that lifestyle. So that income versus expenses and living within our means. We're going to go through some more detailed examples about managing our lifestyle, freeing up cash, investing it to create wealth. But today was, again, just kind of our basic nuggets on foundational principles. I can go ahead and touch on some other things. Let's touch on insurance for a little bit. Family protection. Now, generally speaking, when we're trying to protect our family, two types of insurance. We've got term and we've got permanent. So term is where we're renting the insurance, and permanent is kind of like we're buying it. Generally speaking, we want to have that term in place. So insurance is really designated to replace income. All insurance, that's what it's designed to do. So we want to have term during those working years. So if you're planning on retiring at 65, let's say, Then you want to have some term insurance that ends at 65, because you want to be able to replace that income for your family if something was to happen to someone, and they can make it to that point. But now once we get to 65, now we're retired, we don't have income to replace because we're living off of our retirement assets. And we kind of shift to wealth transfer. And how do we want to transfer wealth to the next generation? Do we want to transfer wealth to the next generation? If you ask Warren Buffett, he does not believe in generational wealth. He believes that his children should go make it just like he did. He said, I gave you enough stuff during your lifetime already. You need to figure this out on your own. But most of us don't come from second and third generational wealthy people. And so for us to create any type of generational wealth, it generally comes through life insurance. And we've generally only been taught about buying burial insurance. But we need to expand that. So permanent insurance has many uses. There's ways you can leverage that permanent insurance during retirement, because you can actually look around and go, you know what? All my children are doing good. We don't need to pass anything to them. We're going to start pulling some money off of this insurance policy. So the insurance company will actually let you, let's say you have a $500,000 policy. Once you get past 2 years on that permanent policy, there's no more suicide clause. So all insurance policies have a suicide clause. So if someone were to commit suicide within the first 2 years, the insurance company's not going to pay. But after you get past those 2 years, they're on the hook for that $500,000. They're going to pay it. So at that, as long as you're paying the premium. So at that point, that policy is enforced, you're in retirement, you can come to the insurance company and say, hey, give me $50,000 a year off of that policy and reduce my death benefit. And they'll do it because they're like, we're going to give you $500,000. You can take some of it during your lifetime now if you want to. So having permanent insurance can actually be a supplement to your retirement plan. So again, it's a strategy that most of us were never introduced to, but it's something that we've got to have some planning around. And it becomes part of your estate planning strategy as well. Estate planning is really important as well in terms of passing on assets and making sure we can get them out of probate. So you can do some simple things now. Everybody needs estate planning. It's not just for wealthy people. But there's some things you can do now that kind of help with that. For instance, your bank accounts. If you don't have a transfer on death on your bank accounts, you need to go to the bank and get a transfer on death done. What that does is once a person passes away, it tells the bank who to give this money to. If we don't have that on file, now this bank account has to go through the probate process. So the state gets to determine where that money goes. So we want to avoid those things as much as possible. I was sharing with Bonnie the fact about your social media accounts and the pictures you have on your social media accounts. If you have not named a successor to that account, Facebook, Instagram, they are not going to let a family member get those pictures. So you have to go into Facebook. There's a setting called legacy, and who do you want to have control of your account, and you can set that up, send an invite to that person. They can say they'll be the legacy person. But so that's part of estate planning. If we want to keep those memories, we have to kind of do those things. So again, we've been taught that estate planning is just for rich people, but it's not. It's for everyday people as well to pass things along. But yeah, so those were the other two things I just wanted to touch on today was a little bit about insurance. We touched a little bit about investing, a little bit about estate planning. Those are our generally our big topics. After that, it becomes goal-based planning and getting into strategies to achieve different things. So again, in the software that, either I can get Bonnie just to give me everybody's email, I can send everybody an invite. That may be the easiest thing to do. I would love to send that to you guys so you all can get in there, start doing some planning. It's going to ask you to rate your goals and your financial objectives, and you can kind of start to get organized a little bit. Then if you want us to come in and kind of help you in any way, we can, come in with an engagement to kind of help you if you need it. But at least it's a place for you guys to start and do some things on your own and play around a little bit as well. So again, I just love to get information out to people. We don't charge people for it. I don't charge for consultations. Um, as far as people kind of calling to pick my brain about something, that's fine. I just want to give people information. So with that said, I think we have covered everything today. We can do some Q&A. Um, we can do some group discussions, or
Yes,
Bonnie,
sir.
what do you want to do?
Yes, sir. Can you stop sharing your screen so we can get everybody on the screen?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Where am I?